Hi, it's Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, Vancouver's best auto service experience, 22-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver, as voted by their customers. And we're going to talk about pre-purchase inspections today. How you doing, Bernie?
Doing well.
So you've seen a couple of vehicles come through your shop lately that have had post-purchase inspections. What have you found?
Well, they're not exactly happy stories. We do get a number of people who come to us and, I just bought this car and it's got some issues. And so, yeah, it's a post-purchase inspection. This is why we're talking about pre-purchase inspection. Now, sometimes they're happy stories and we find, hey, there's not much wrong with the car, needs a couple little things. But in the case of these two cars, there was a lot going on. First one was a Nissan Quest, mid-2000s. Person kind of needed to buy a vehicle in a hurry. Right off the bat, she wasn't really, I spoke with her for a while about the whole purchase process. And right off the bat, she wasn't really very happy with didn't get a good feeling about the people she bought the vehicle from. They told her some work had been done. It was kind of like someone was selling it for their aunt or uncle. I can't remember all the details, but I hear these stories so often and I've seen them myself. Anyways, did buy the vehicle. It wasn't a lot of money, but the vehicle ended up needing a huge amount of work, like thousands of dollars worth of work just to make it safe. There's one sad story. Had this vehicle at a pre-purchase inspection, they probably wouldn't have bought it in the first place. But if they did, if they would have got the vehicle for next to free, that would have maybe made it an okay purchase. Our second story, older Dodge van, some younger people wanting to go on a trip, bought the vehicle for a cheap price. Again, they were told, certain things had been done and this and that, but there was a problem with something. They tinkered around with a few things, finally brought it to us. So we did a good, thorough, comprehensive inspection on the vehicle. Found, again, serious problems, worn out rear differential, loose ball joints, worn front brakes, and like really serious expensive items. Again, many thousands of dollars worth of repairs, far exceeding the value of the vehicle. So there's a couple of sad stories right there, and a reason why you really do want to get a pre-purchase inspection, because you want to know what it is before you buy it. You don't want to find it after you buy it. Oh crap, now I'm faced with all this money to spend and the vehicle. And then if you decide, hey, I'm going to sell the vehicle, then you've got to BS your way into selling the vehicle, whereas perhaps the other people before were just ignorant. And they say ignorance is bliss, because, for me, I can't sell, I could never sell a car if I knew, hey, this ball joint's about to break. And most people who know those kind of things don't feel ethical about doing that.
So what's a positive story about pre-purchase inspections that you've encountered lately?
I've got lots of positive stories, but I'm going to go into one. We had a client, and I believe we did a podcast about this. He was looking for a fairly new 3/4 ton pickup truck. So he went to a GM dealer, local dealer, very good reputation, brought the vehicle to us. It was only like 2 or 3 years old, not very old, pretty low mileage, like 30,000 kilometers or something like that. So it was a fair amount of money, this purchase, because it was a fairly new vehicle. We put up on our hoist and we're shocked to find that this vehicle had obviously, spent most of its life somewhere in northern BC or Alberta, where there's a lot of mud on the road. There was 2 or 3 inches of caked on mud all underneath the vehicle, and it had been sprayed with undercoating. So, we kind of curtailed the inspection halfway through, said, you know what, this isn't a worthwhile vehicle to buy. He agreed, took it back, eventually found another vehicle from the same dealership, came back, same thing. We did another, most of an inspection, say, you know what, same thing. So he got a little discouraged with it. I think he found a Ford truck from somewhere else. We did an inspection, great vehicle, and he was happy with his purchase. But he was spending a lot of money. He wanted to get the right truck and smartly went through the process. We've had people where they do one inspection and I don't know, for some reason they just don't want to spend the next amount of money to do the next inspection. This customer was smart. He did it. He found the right truck, and we haven't seen him since because the truck didn't need any maintenance or repair, and he's really happy with it. The thing I'll say, this was bought from a reputable dealership, and I had actually ended up talking with the sales manager about it, because I said, hey, I don't know if you guys have actually looked at these trucks, but they probably, I'm assuming they bought them from auction somewhere. They kind of bought them on the premise of the mileage was low, and it's true, but there were some maintenance issues, and caretaking issues with the vehicle that should have been dealt with. Had someone got under the pressure washer, really cleaned it and done a good job, it would have made the vehicle probably decent.
So what could that customer have done to not have to go through 3 vehicles to find the right one? What quick tips would you have for that?
Well, that's a really good question. I think, before you buy, you really need to do your research. What car do you want? How does the car work? You go for a test drive, you make sure the car feels fine. Now, this guy did all that. And I think, then the question is, who do you buy it from? If it's a private sale, all you've got to go on is your intuition and feeling for the person. But if you buy a private sale vehicle, if you got someone to go, hey, I've got all these maintenance records. I've serviced my car at this place for, at the dealership or this shop for like the last 10 years. They've got those maintenance records. Those are really positive things, in the favor of the car. But again, for this person, they're buying from a reputable dealership. And I think just something happened, something fell through the cracks. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate I was surprised because most car dealerships, especially name brand, GM, Toyota, Mercedes, wherever you buy, their reputation's at stake. They don't want to sell crap. So it kind of surprised me. And there are a lot of independent dealers that are good and some that are crappy. So I think you just got to kind of do your research first. And you know what? It's sometimes, every once in a while, you get a story like this where something kind of falls through the cracks.
Any final thoughts on pre-purchase inspections?
Well, like I say, if you're buying a used car, it's a process. It really is a jungle out there in terms of trying to find the right car. So do your research, figure out which car you want, and just go with your gut feeling on, who you're buying it from. But get a pre-purchase inspection because you never know whether you're buying a good car from a bad person or a bad car from a good person, or maybe a reputable dealership's got some crappy cars for some reason, or their systems and procedures slipped. So you get the pre-purchase inspection, then you're going to know 100% that you're buying a car that's good.
So there you go. If you need a pre-purchase inspection because you're looking for a good used vehicle, the guys to see in Vancouver, Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112 to book your appointment. You have to call and book ahead because they're busy even now as we start to open up. As well, there's over 600 videos on YouTube, Pawlik Auto Repair. Check us out there. All makes and models and all types of repairs. And of course, the website, pawlikautomotive.com, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for watching. Get your car inspected.